Hi, I'm Faye,
And I'm Tracey.
and welcome to this episode of More Better with Tracey and Faye.
Well, this is exciting.
Yeah, our first episode. Better be a good one, Tracey. No pressure.
Of course, no pressure.
Okay, before we jump in, let's tell our potentially dozens of viewers, dozens,
All tens
about
of you.
all five of you, maybe,
All five of you, probably.
about how we came up with More Better. Will you do the honors, please?
I will, because I love how to write more better. I love that title. Years ago, I had to develop a training program just to teach people within this organization just some basics of how to write better in a corporate environment. And my working title for this was How to Write More Better. And my manager at the time did not think that that was an appropriate title to actually deliver. Can you believe it? What? But I've held on to it, and I think I shared it with you back then, and we just use it now as our holder names as we're developing things that we can't actually share with our corporate audience, but we get to share it today with
Yes,
you.
we get to share it with all five of you,
All
or
five of you.
10 or 6 or one of you. I don't know. The grammar police is already sounding their alarm. I know, but it's a fun name and we love it.
And we love it.
Yeah, we do.
So there we go.
Okay.
In fact, that's where the name of our whole podcast came out, is More Better,
Yes,
from How to Write More Better.
that's right.
All right.
Why don't let's tell again, all of you out there, what are we going to talk about in our very first episode?
Lots of pressure. All right. In this, our inaugural episode of More Better with Tracey and Faye, we're going to be talking about the most basic skill when it comes to communicating, which is our ability to write words and sentences and paragraphs that get noticed and get acted on. And really, when we are writing, we want to write more better because we need to get to what we're trying to achieve. And so by focusing on those basics of writing, we're jumping into the heart of why Faye and I are doing More Better in the first place. And that is, we want to bring the knowledge and skill of professional communicators, which we are, to people who either don't have that skill set in their company or who just want to get better at various aspects of communication for their own purposes, whether it's career-wise or otherwise. So we'll be focusing today on the basics of writing, because regardless of your profession, your writing ability, we can all become better at writing and be more intentional and be more successful, and that can be an email, if people still do that anymore. It could be text, it could be speech, it could be a presentation, or it could be a thank you note. Sound about right?
Yeah, absolutely. For those of us who work in this field, like Tracey and I, we're nerds at heart, right? And sometimes it feels like communicators, we have this sort of superpower of sorts. We know how to enact change. We know how to best use, communication channels at our disposal. And for those of you who work in a communication function within a company, we often have access to really broad knowledge that comes from leadership. We understand what's happening like across the organization and why. And that allows us to really hit that sweet spot in terms of context and messaging. But, regardless of like what channel you're using, like Tracey says, whether it's an email, thank you note, 52 slide PowerPoint, I mean, good writing is key. So without good writing, all the best comms plan in the world will fail.
So the most important first step in writing is not writing at all. The first step is establishing why you're writing, whatever it is, who it's for, what's the context, and again, what are you trying to achieve? What's the end goal? Because there's always an end goal. There's always a result you want. I often call that, getting the yes. How are you going to get the yes that you're looking for? And that's what we're talking about today. What to do before you write, and then what to do once you start writing. Before I hand it over to Faye, I want to make a promise. And it's a promise that applies to today's episode and probably all of them, hopefully going forward, which is everything that we're going to talk about are things that you can use in your own writing starting today. It's not complicated. You don't need some advanced degree in punctuation. They're just simple tips, but they really can help you be a lot more successful in your written communications. So with that, Faye, over to you.
Okay, so first topic, what makes good writing? Okay, so let's think about this. If something uses beautiful language, is it good? If it's succinct and businesslike, is that good? What if it brings out an emotional response? Is that good? Or is something good if it's just merely understandable? Maybe, maybe not. But all these questions sort of miss the point. I would say that good writing and good communications for that matter is always persuasive. And what I mean by that is whenever you're writing something or communicating something, you're usually asking for something, believe it or not, even if it's just, can you read this? In business communication, we're often asking people to share this, approve this, support this, do this instead of that. And that requires people to, shift their energy from whatever they're doing to doing this something else, right? So I would say that anything you write has to have some sort of goal, a result you're trying to achieve. What do you think, Tracy? What does good writing mean to you?
Well, I think it means a lot of different things, but for the purpose of today, I think I actually found something that another writer put out there into the world. Her name is Anne Handley, and she wrote a piece called The 9 Qualities of Good Writing. And for the purposes of business writing, there's 4 of those things that really stand out for me. And I think that that's important to know when, we sit down. We never sit down to write something crappy, but that often is the outcome. So to save us from that, let's talk about what makes writing actually good. What makes a piece of writing a good piece of writing? And the first one is good writing anticipates readers' questions. Questions, questions, questions. We'll be talking a lot about questions, and questions are so important before you start writing, because what you need to do with those questions is anticipate what your reader is going to want to know, and then you answer it in your communication. So it's not about what I want, it's about what the reader wants and needs. Good writing has logic and structure. So it's not enough to just put all the information out there in some, haphazard order, and you hope that your reader can kind of go in there and pick out the good stuff and ignore the crappy stuff. No, it's got to have some logical flow and structure, because if it doesn't, you're going to lose people. Good writing is simple, but not simplistic. So do not use big words if big words don't matter. It's all about plain language, not trying to fluff things up to make them seem more impressive. And one of the things Anne Handley, the way she writes it, she says, remember, no one will ever complain that you've made something too simple to understand.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. And good writing comes on the rewrite. So the other thing is, what makes writing good? It's not your first draft. It's never your first draft. Even those of us, Faye and I write all the time. We've written in different formats and different ways for different things, different purposes. And even for those of us who do it professionally, your first draft is never your best draft. It might be okay if you're a decent writer, but it's never going to be good. It's just not the way it goes. So 4 things to me that I really hold true, and I want to share with you about what makes writing good. It anticipates readers' questions. It has logic and structure. It's simple. And it comes on the rewrite. So easy, right? Well, not yet. That's just before you start writing.
What?
So that's all you need to know. Go write. No, that's not true. Okay, so now we know what good writing is. Now, what do you do, again, before you put pen to paper or hands on the keyboard or thumbs to screen? Faye of the questions. What do you do, Faye?
Well, admittedly, and you've worked with me, Tracy, right? I have a bit of a reputation for asking a lot of questions, right? And I promise I don't ask them for the sake of asking, right? It's really about understanding some basics in order to write and communicate, right? Like, I'll ask questions like, well, what's the business objective here? Like, what's the problem we're trying to solve? Who's the audience? And what are we asking them? Again, what are we asking them to do? I want to make sure that I actually know why I'm writing, like why am I communicating and who am I doing it for? So that I can help support whatever outcome is outlined by, whether it's a leader, a project manager, etc. Right? But if someone isn't a professional communicator, do they really ask themselves those questions before they write? What do you think, Tracy?
Well, in my totally non-scientific research of talking to people and asking them, I would say they don't. And, because things will come to me, Tracy, can you look at this? Can you rewrite it? And I'm like, okay, well, what's going on? What's this for? Blah, blah, blah. And they're like, well, I just need to tell this person that. I'm like, yeah, that's probably not going to get you what you want. What's your goal? I want them to know how pissed off I am. Well, if you're looking to end the business relationship, tick, good job. But that's not really how it goes. And so we really need to know what the objective is. What does the other person need to know? And that's something that Faye and I are going to keep coming back to again and again and again. Because I think if there's one thing that professional communicators understand that non-communicators might not and often don't, is that what the other person at the end of the communication, and our audience is not always 1,000 people, our audiences can often be an audience of one. But what they need is more important than what I want to say. So if I'm trying to, get a reduction in some invoice and I want to send an email to the person, and I find out that that person actually really loves getting emails in all italics or in some crazy script font, well, okay, if that's going to get me where I want to go. I think it's a terrible idea, but it's not about me. It's about them. And so I kind of divide these questions. There's more than just who and what, but to me, those are the big ones that I look at. So who is this person that I am communicating with? And what are they going to do with the information? Why do they need the information? What information do they need? All of those things, right? Who is this person that I'm trying to get this discount out of, despite the fact I know they like it in italics, but what else? Do they need background information? Does this communication be high level? Is there any do's and don'ts that you need to know? Some people have very, unique habits, but if I'm the one doing the asking, then I need to cater to that, not go, well, this is not how I like to do it. Well, I'll do it how they like to do it if it's going to get me where I want to go. A big one, especially here in Vancouver and across Canada, where we have a very, very diverse population. Ask yourself if English is their first language. Because if you're writing in English to someone for whom English is not their first language, well, you got to do things differently. It's just got to go that way. And so, I would never assume that the person at the other end has an English capability that's the same as mine. I need to ask that question. And then around the what, I ask, how's this going to be used? Is it just going to stop at that person? I'm looking for an answer. Is it going to be passed on to someone else, either by my choice or not by my choice? Are there sensitivities that need to be addressed? Are there other things? Are there old communications on the same topic that I can reference to write this one, and that will help me? So these are just some of the questions, but they're the types of questions that I would ask. And here's the crux. I've said this before. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to always say it. You aren't doing it solely to make your recipient or recipients connect with what you're writing. You're doing it so that you can get the result you want for them. So you can get the yes that you're looking for. You're not just doing it to make them happy. You're doing it so you yourself can get something out of it. And that's kind of the approach that I take. Just very quickly, there was a business that I was involved with, and there had been a meeting about a potential sale of company A to company B. The meeting was at company B. And then it was discovered that someone at company B found out about this discussion of this potential sale and then was telling people, because a couple of people at company A heard that.
Uh-oh.
So yeah. So they're like, Tracey, we need to send something to this company to let them know that their people are talking and we need them to stop, because nothing was progressing. Plus, these are private companies,
Yep.
Talk of sales is very sensitive. So, I was asking myself, what do I need to say? Because company A and B also have an ongoing supplier relationship. They're important business partners with each other. So we didn't want to go in there all guns a blazing going, how dare you let this information get out in the company? Because it could ruin a really important business relationship. So, that's a type of sensitive thing that if I hadn't asked all those right questions to really come across what are we looking for here exactly? And how can we say it in a way that preserves the relationship? So one example.
If you hadn't asked all those questions, then angry missive would have been sent,
right?
And then
Nasty grams.
and then there's lawyers involved and all that sort of stuff, and yeah. So
Yeah, so that's the
That's good.
question. So,
Cool.
so what we're going to go on to now is what we call it. It's a three-step process of your approach to writing. And I'm going to let Faye take it over from here, and she can talk about why we're recommending this and what those three easy steps are. Faye.
Because we can't ask questions forever. I mean, we'd love
Well,
to.
you can.
Yeah, I can. That's fine. Okay. All right. So, I mean, if I were to sort of think about what my process is, I mean, as someone who's been writing for a long time, all sorts of stuff, like I think there is, some sort of three-step process. So it's not rocket science, right? Like, but if you break down the task of writing, it can make it easier to sort of get that first draft out of the way. So I'd say first step, brain dump, right? Put everything that you want to say on paper or typed on your screen, just get it all out there, right? Regardless of accuracy, of sentence structure. Again, this isn't about perfection, right? It's about getting it all down any way you can.
Mhm.
Don't, like, I know the tendency is to start writing and then go back, hit that backspace and start editing. Do not do
Yeah.
that. Save
Yeah.
that energy, that special energy, for another step. I promise you'll use that. That's another superpower. But and it uses a different part of your brain. So don't start editing right away.
Mhm.
Personally, like, so like my first drafts are long and drawn out. They're 4 line sentences, which I hate, but like they're 4 line sentences, lots of jargon, lots of
Oh yeah.
buzzwords, all the type of writing that I'm not proud of, because writing is hard, right? But give yourself space. Give yourself space to sort of just jot everything down, whatever you can. You'll probably find, like, hey, I don't know about this, and oh, I think it's this,
Yeah.
and then you might want to put a comment to yourself going, I need to clarify this for the person or whatever, but get it all down on paper. So to save yourself the grief of trying to craft everything perfectly the first time, right? That would
Mhm.
be my first step. Second step, construct. Right. So now you can look at this great mass of words you've typed, 4 line sentences,
They're
and then you can
awesome.
start. Yeah, I know you love the 4 line sentences,
Oh
and
yeah.
start deleting those useless things. Right. So all those phrases, those sort of fill-in phrases, all the jargon, start playing with the order of information. So I
Mhm.
often think, like, if this landed, like, here I am, busy, 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 and I get this email, let's say, what's going to compel me to read it? Right. So I think of, like, the structure. I think of, like, you know, how does this feel logically to me? Does this make sense just at a glance? Because people make decisions about whether they're going to read something in seconds, right?
Yeah.
So start
Yeah.
making decisions about how to present your information. Is it a couple of sentences? If you have a bunch of data, should I create a infographic or bullets? Will that work, right? What information comes first and what will follow? Have you made a clear ask, like sort of what we call the call to action? Have you made that
Mhm.
clear ask either at the beginning and the end of your communication, or both,
Or
right? Like,
both.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, do you have to ask for it at the beginning and then repeat it at the end, right?
Yeah.
Um, that call to action is the real point of your communication.
Mhm.
You wouldn't be sending something, as Tracy mentioned, like, unless you had a goal in mind, which is to either get an action, a reaction, or something.
Mhm.
So have that goal really clear in your head. And however you choose to structure your piece of writing, just make sure that you include it, whatever you're asking for, and don't bury it, right? Like I said,
Don't bury it. Yeah.
beginning, you might have to do it beginning, middle, end, and that's okay, right?
The most frustrating thing to me
Mhm.
is you get an email or something and you're reading. I'm like, why am I reading this?
Yeah,
Why am I
exactly.
reading this? What's going on? And if it's too long, I won't even get to the end where the ask is. I'm like, I don't know. They're trying to fill me with a bunch of information. I don't know why. So I'm just going to ignore it.
Yeah, I've also seen, like, you put the action in, if it's an email, for those of you who still use email,
Yeah.
um so use your subject line, right? Like,
Yeah.
use that so that I know exactly why am I getting this piece of information, or why am I getting
Yeah.
this communication, whatever that is. So that's the construct that I'd say, like that's sort of like your second phase. And I know that bleeds into our third phase, right? So edit. I love editing. I love this is my favorite part. So, now they have most of the information, right? You've shaped this sort of ball of clay into something, right? So this is the best part, in my opinion. I don't know. I like this part. It's time to use your inner critic because we all have one, right? And it's time to be ruthless, right? It's time to take a literal, virtual, or theoretical red pen, whatever it is, and it's time to edit. Okay.
I remember the red pen when it was an actual red pen.
I know. Yeah, exactly.
I love my red pen.
I know. Oh, I have another story for another time. But anyways, maybe that's the next episode. So speaking of next episode, I think we're kind of running out of time. So what I want to do is I want to save editing because again, like that's the juicy bit, I think.
It is. It's the best part.
Yeah. And we're going to save that for the next episode. So spoiler alert, we're going to have lots of easy tips, I promise, to share with all of you. Good Lord. So we're nerds. I mean, how can we're nerds because like we just get excited about editing.
About words and nerdy things. And those of you who worked with us back in the olden days, we had whiteboards. Did you remember that? We would like write down words and phrases that we liked and we hated, and because we are word nerds, without a doubt. Yeah. Without a doubt. Right.
So step 1, brain dump. Step 2, construct. Step 3, edit, which we will save for next time. Easy peasy, right, Tracy?
Like texting a smiley face to one of my sons.
Aw, we should do an episode on texting your children. What do you think?
That'd be like a support group. It'll be like, you text your children and they don't answer. What now? Except when they text you, it's emergency. When you text them, it's just easily ignored. So then just text, how about chocolate? And then they're like, oh yeah, I know. Yeah, all right. Exactly. So let me wrap up for today's episode.
Okay.
On More Better with Tracey and Faye, how to write more better. All right. So here's what we talked about. Good writing, anticipates readers' questions, has logic and structure, is simple but not simplistic, comes on the rewrite.
Okay.
Faye.
All right. And next, before you write, ask yourself as many questions, or that person that you're working with, as many questions as you can. So you understand your audience and the context as fully as possible. Ask the who, the what, the why, the when, the how, all of those questions. It's important.
So really, actually, don't ask yourself as many questions as you can. Ask as many questions as Faye would.
No, don't do that.
Then you'll be covered. And then finally, so you've asked all your questions and all of Faye's questions, and then your three-part approach to writing is first you just get it all out of your head, dump it out, construct it in some kind of form, and then edit. Anything to add, Faye?
No, I think we have covered a lot for this very first episode. So tell us how we did in the comments, but only if they're nice. No, I'm just
yeah, we don't want.
No, really, please. We have very fragile egos. If you're interested in a tip sheet or things we've discussed, whether it's in this episode or in future ones, just send us a message or comment below, whatever below is, and we will make anything available to anyone who'd like to see. So, all right. So this has been fun. Thank you.
It's been so fun.
Let's do it again. Do we do it again?
I think we should. Next time we'll talk about editing.
Yeah, we actually promised another episode. So I guess we have to do it.
So at least we have to do 2.
Okay, you guys, all 5 of you get another episode. How exciting.
All right, and with that, I'm Tracey.
And I'm Faye. Thank you for joining us. We hope you join us for another episode with More Better with Tracey and Faye. Bye.
Bye.